Okay, thank you for watching. First of all, I just want to make this clear. This is not a hot lap tutorial. I'm not an alien. I can't do alien times. What I'm hoping to do here is to try to explain to anybody who's having difficulty or who's new to the circuit, just trying to show them how you can do consistent competitive times safely, and that basically is what we're doing. We're not aiming for hot laps, we're aiming for consistent and safe laps. That's what I'm trying to put across. What we'll do first is we'll have basically do a walkthrough, and I'll explain everything I can from my perspective and hope that that's beneficial to you. And then once we've gone through that, I'll play the lap in full, uninterrupted, where you'll be able to pick up. You'll probably get a better feeling for what you should be seeing as you're driving around. If you've got any questions, or if you've got some better ideas, suggestions, please let me know, either in the comments below or on the 60 Plus forum in iRacing. Obviously, if you'd like to subscribe, I'd appreciate that very much, and if you like the video, please click that like button. Okay, let's get started. So we're on the Nordschleife in Industriefahrten. The start and finishing line is basically here where my cursor is now. There is no line, but it's just before this change in track surface. If I advance forward, you see in the bottom here, lap 1. If I just advance it forward, there we go. So we're actually on the start finish line now. Okay, before we actually start the lap, I'd just like to explain a few tips, if you will, before we crack on. Whenever you're faced with a decision, should I do this or should I do that, always, but always choose the safest option. Should I take that bend in fourth or should I take it in third? If you're in any doubt, take it in third. There are 3 very long straights on this track. You can relax and just gather yourself on those straights. Anywhere else, you must concentrate 100% of the time. This track itself is absolutely unforgiving. Make the slightest of mistakes and it'll punish you. In the main, there are 2 things to avoid. The first is overdriving the entry to the corners, and the second is getting pushed wide on the exits. Most of the track is edged by a strip of grass and then a barrier. If you put a wheel on the grass or the curbs, you generally end up in the barrier. The toe from here is absolutely crippling, and well, it's race over basically. So we come to the first corner. The first corner here is a left-hand hairpin. You can see a crest in the road where my cursor is now. From there, the road drops down to the bend. Now, as you're probably aware, when you're going downhill, particularly if you're braking downhill, going into a bend, the car wants to understeer. I brake just before the crest and then immediately start releasing the brake. I hold a touch of brake just to keep the weight on the front of the car, but only a touch of brake into the corner, and then try to get onto the throttle as soon as I can. these bends are absolutely flat. Now here we're in fifth gear at the minute. When the fuel load lightens, you'll probably be in sixth gear here. Entering this corner, you want to try to keep as best you can to the left hand side of the track on exit to open up the right hander. The right hander is quite deceptive and there's a few awkward bumps on it. The main risk, if you will, on this corner is running wide, getting on the grass and into the barrier. I take that in you can take it in fourth gear, it's very doable in fourth, but I always take it in third. There's far more wiggle room in third gear, I find. Again, this left hand bend and the following right hand bend are doable in fourth gear. I always take the safe option and do them in third. The curb on the inside of the right hander you can use. It's the only curb in this sequence that I would do. Now we've got another right left. We can use the curb on the inside here, that's fine. This is all about exit from the left hander. So compromise this corner, keep it tight to the right hand side or as tight as you can coming out of the corner to open up the left hander. Once you get back to throttle on this left hander, you're going to be full throttle for a long time. So the sooner you get back to full throttle here, that's where the time will be gained. Whatever time you make here will be negligible compared to what you can make from that corner to where you hit the brakes. As we go over this crest here, I drop it into sixth gear, and we continue to be flat in sixth then right up until the next braking zone. This is a double right hand bend, double apex right hander. After a couple of practice laps you'll probably get the feeling, and if you just put in a tiny amount of steering handle, you can do the two bends. You don't have to adjust your steering, it goes through in one nice smooth arc. Here again we've got a crest and it drops away as it goes round the bend. The greatest risk again on this corner is running wide. There's grass on the edge, and as I say, if you go wide here, it will be a crash. The change in surface here, I use that as a brake reference for this hairpin bend here. Again, concentrate on the exit from this, not the entry. You want to get your speed down before you turn in, and then you want to get back to throttle as soon as you can, because it's a very, very fast section after this bend. Left-hander coming up just over this crest. It says the track's full of crests. I take it flat in sixth. If you want that little bit extra security, drop to fifth. As soon as you've got the rotation in the car, once you drop to fifth, the car will yaw. You can go back to throttle for the short run up to the next bend. This bend is a bit of a non-event really. Try to keep it tight to the inside, opening up the next bend, which again, that can tempt you to go into it a lot quicker than you should. It's followed immediately by a very tight left-hand bend. So even though it looks a nice, appealing, inviting bend, you have to be slow. After that tight, it goes into this left-hander, very tight left-hander, and then a tight right-hander. It's the exit of the right-hander that we need to concentrate on. This bend, again, very doable in sixth gear. The risk involved here is the same as before. It's running wide on exit. Again, you've just got a grass bank and a barrier. Coming downhill into another hairpin. Again, downhill, braking into a bend, we're going to pick up understeer, so don't attack the bend. On a full fuel run like we are at the minute, I use second gear here. After the fuel's, probably on the next lap actually on this circuit, I'd be probably using third gear. This is an interesting bend. It's got 3 apexes to it. I tend to clip this first one and the last one. I think it's called hit miss hiss actually. But yeah, if you get it tight to this one, the danger once more is running wide. It's a very, very narrow runoff and a barrier. So again, be extra careful about running wide. Fifth gear should be easy. Now we're coming into the slowest bend on the circuit. We've got this right-hander, then it leads into a very tight left-hander. Downhill again, and we're turning, so you can't really get more tricky than that. Downhill, turning and braking. So I go down a gear before this apex. I try to pick a straight line in between this and the left-hander, and I will drop down to second gear. Another deceptive bend. This looks a lot quicker than it is. I use this access road here as a brake reference. Probably brake just before it. Third gear. The curb on the outside is I use the curb on the outside with GT cars, to be honest, but in the Formula car I try to avoid the curb. On this particular lap, if memory serves me right, I actually touched the curb and you'll see the reaction. Yeah, I'll just play that in slow motion and you can actually see. how that reacts. It's quite harsh. So this line here is my reference for this bend, my brake reference. Third gear. Now you can see the track is banked, and you can also probably see here that the banking shallows out and it's climbing. What you tend to find is you've got incredible grip going into the corner, but coming out of the corner you lose traction and the car gets very loose. So you basically anticipate it. You'll probably notice as I pass the apex, I've probably put a little bit of opposite lock on before the car slides, just to basically null and void it. But it does get loose. It's very much like mid-Ohio, that bend, that right hand bend where the back goes very loose as you're coming out of it. Just be careful of it. Niki Lauda's bend. Okay, this is probably the most important bend on the circuit. There's a very long flat out section following this bend, and it's uphill. In the sim you don't really get much appreciation of how steep it is, but trust me, you are climbing an awful lot. The braking for this bend is just before this sign here, and I use third gear. Keep the car to the left, run the shortest distance possible. Open this bend up. We're coming up to the left-hander. I think it's called Brave Corner or something like that, Bravery Corner. Sixth gear will go, it'll do it in sixth. Again, you've got the option of fifth. I keep it in sixth all the way to the top. And here, this, wait a minute, as I'm coming up the hill, this yellow here is what I'm looking for, and I'm braking probably just on the curb, just before the curb. There we go, just before, I'm on the yellow itself actually. The bend itself is it's basically an increasing radius, decreasing radius, sorry. It's tighter and then it opens up. It starts to climb as well. It's quite tricky to get a good line through here. I use second gear. And now we're at the Cracchiola carousel. Cracchiola, of course, one of the greatest of all time Formula 1 drivers. Or Grand Prix drivers, actually, didn't have Formula 1 then, Grand Prix driver. Yeah, so the carousel itself, you have two options. You can use the line I'm taking here where I drop into the carousel about there, where my cursor is now, or you can keep to the left of the circuit and drive straight into it. I find this slightly easier to, how can I say, I find it quite easier to actually keep the car in the carousel. You could go around the outside on the top, but it's slower, and there are two things to watch out for if in the actual carousel itself. That is hitting the inside curb, which is an instant spin. It's a terrible curb on the inside. And the other thing is to be guarding against jumping out. The car can get spit out of it, if you will. If you start going up the banking, bleed off the throttle, just bleed it off the throttle a little bit and let it and tuck it back in, because if you go out of the carousel 99 times out of 100 you'll be in the barrier. I go down into the carousel, as I say here, drop to second gear and go on the not full accelerator, but I do put accelerator on to keep it. I basically control the height it is, whether it, keeping it away from the curb or bringing it into the curb by modulating the throttle. Well, we're now at the best section of the circuit, in my opinion. Brake onto alongside this curb here. Drop to fourth. It's quite easy through the left-hander. The right-hander following it, you'll find as you come out of the right-hander, the car will get slightly loose. There's the correction. There. Just before the crest, you want to drop down into third for this right-hander. Then it's back to fourth. Use the off throttle to rotate, and again, back on throttle, off throttle, onto throttle, off throttle, on throttle, off throttle, on throttle, off throttle, on throttle, off throttle, on throttle, and again, off throttle, on throttle. Watch that curb on the right, terrible. Okay, so we've got the jump here. Now we want to basically make sure that the car's going in a straight line when we take the jump. You want the steering wheel straight, and as soon as you land you want to put some right hand lock in. Don't turn to try and apex this corner too much, because it turns right again here. If you turn too much here you'll find yourself out of line for the second bend. As soon as you're into the second bend you can be turning left into the left-hander. Stefan Beloff S's absolutely flat into sixth, and we can brake very deep for this one. Keep to the right. And now we've got the little carousel, and to be perfectly honest, this is one bend that I struggle with. You can go around the outside, but it's slower. I don't know, I used second gear. I'm absolutely convinced that third gear will be quicker, but to go through here in third gear consistently, I struggle. If anybody's got any ideas or suggestions or can explain exactly how to do it, I really would appreciate it. The way I'm doing it, I'm braking around about here, third gear, dropping into second gear, and as soon as I know I'm coming out of the carousel, I'll start to accelerate. Now, if the bend down at the bottom near Niki Lauda's bend is, if that is the critical bend on the circuit, this is the second critical. We've got a very, very long straight after this, very, very high speed section. What I'm finding with this car is if I enter this corner too quickly, I'm actually making corrections in between this turn and the next one, which it basically goes, it's like one big bend really. But because I've got to make a correction and come off the throttle, I'm finding it overall quicker to just breathe off the throttle on entry here, and then I can get back to throttle and basically keep it on throttle. A little bit of modulation, but when the fuel comes out, it's not a problem. On full fuel, we run. This is my second lap, so I've still got quite a lot of fuel on board. I don't know just now. Oh, it doesn't work on replay, does it? But yeah, this is my second lap, so I will have quite a lot of fuel on board. Now, I'm not using this lane here. I've deliberately come out on this second lane. The reason being, where the surface changes here, right there is a horrendous bump. The car bottoms badly and you will lose speed. It will take speed out of you. So I stay in this lane until I'm past this area here. Okay, so here you got this left hand bend followed by right hand bend, a short right hand bend followed by another left hand bend, and then it's a very short straight to the final bend. So there is no time to be gained coming out of here really. All the time to be gained here is coming into the corner. So it's how late you can brake and get down to second gear to take the right hand bend. You'll have to find that out in practice, but wherever you're comfortable braking, knowing that you've got to go down from sixth to second, the later you can brake obviously, the quicker you'll be. And now the last bend on the circuit, roughly where the changes there, that little bit of a crest if you will, is I go to first gear. It is doable in second, but what I've been trying to do all through the lap, play it safe, I use first. And that's a lap of the Nordschleife. As I say, what is it, 6:29. It's not the fastest of laps, it's not an alien lap, but it's repeatable. And once you've done it, it is very repeatable. Finishing the race here with no incidents will give you a good finishing position. I really do hope it's been helpful. As I said, any suggestions, any ideas, any comments, greatly appreciated, either below or in the iRacing forum. I'll play the lap in full now, uninterrupted, and leave you with that. Thank you once more for watching.